Circular. This is like Jim and Maury on those circular stages. You know, Jim used to say if you were on there long enough, you were going to get sick. Um, so I want to say, if you know something about Jim Croce in the early 1970s, somebody got it. Maybe it's Jim. If you know something about Jim Croce in the early 1970s, you know that you never saw him without Maury Muehlesier by his side. That was Maury accompanying Jim in the studio and on tour all over the United States and on 2 European tours. That was Maury playing all the beautiful lead guitar parts that he created for Jim's songs. The amazing combination of Jim Croce and Maury Muehlesier became a signature sound that was created right here in this home in Lindell, Chester County, Pennsylvania. In February 1970, the smallest of the 3 apartments in this house at 11 High Spire Road became available at just the right time for Jim and Ingrid Croce. They had become disillusioned with the music business and wanted to escape the hustle and bustle of New York City. They set aside their songwriting contract, walked away from their producer friends, and left to settle into a simpler lifestyle out in the country. Jim took a job working for a construction company during the day and began performing at the Riddle Paddock, a steakhouse in nearby Lima, in the evenings. Maury's first visit to this home was on July 1st, 1970. He was exactly 1 week away from heading up to the Hit Factory, the famed recording studio in New York City. He was signed to Capitol Records and was about to record a solo album consisting only of songs for which he had written all the words and music. He was 21 years old. Joe Salviolo, a close friend of Jim since college, was now Maury's manager and wanted to show Maury off. The story is too long to tell here, but the people who hung out here on that date included the newly formed jazz ensemble known as the Manhattan Transfer and another artist by the name of James Taylor, who was busy promoting his second album, Sweet Baby James. By mid-August of 1970, the songs for Maury's album were all recorded, and it was decided that Jim would be a good backup guitarist to go on gigs with Maury while he promoted his album, which would be released in November. Maury started spending lots of time here in Lindell so that Jim could learn the rhythm parts to Maury's songs. During that time, Maury and Jim jammed all the time, and Maury asked Jim if he was working on any songs. Jim said he had taken a break from writing since leaving New York, but let Maury hear some of his unfinished lyrics and melodies. They immediately began working on a number of Jim's songs. Jim would strum and sing, Maury finger-picked his intricate leads. By the end of December, they learned that Ingrid was pregnant. The urgent need for an increased income convinced Jim that sending a cassette of some of these songs to his producer friends in New York was his last shot. In February 1971, Jim mailed a package to his friend Tommy West with a note. He said, "I just wrote these songs, and I'd really appreciate just anything you could do with them. Get them recorded by someone else. Things are kind of tough." Tommy and his partner Terry Cashman loved what they were hearing and recognized these songs as a most wonderful combination of the 2 artists they had signed, Jim and Maury. And they had a strong feeling that these songs would be huge hits. Cashman and West wasted no time in summoning them up to their office in New York. It took some time to get anyone else in the music industry to hear what they had heard, so Jim spent 18 months as Maury's backup guitarist. Jim and Maury spent every free moment here in Lindell working on new material. After finally managing to get Jim a 3-record deal with ABC Records in October 1971, Jim and Maury headed up to the Hit Factory in New York City to record Jim's songs for the first of these 3 albums. In April 1972, they kicked off the promotional tour for the first album in Chicago. That album, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, is now forever recognized for the cover photo of Jim Croce peering out the window frame of the famously known outhouse on this property. In September 1972, after living in their apartment at 11 High Spire Road for 2.5 years, just months after Jim's career soared, that success had him packing up his wife and 1-year-old son, Adrian James, for an 8-mile move to Coatesville. They needed a bit more room than this 1-bedroom apartment in Lindell. 1 year later, on September 20th, 1973, Jim Croce and Maury Muehlesier perished together in a plane crash in Louisiana. While the world has never been the same for those who knew and loved them, they will never be forgotten, and their timeless music will continue to keep them present in all our lives. Thank you for coming here today.